So laughter's infectious in a theater. That's how you
Yeah,
should watch a
right.
comedy. So I don't know what's happening. Comedy's kind of not in theaters anymore, and it's a sad thing. And really, they're not even really many streaming comedies made either. I don't know. And yeah, drama comedy too. It's been a hard. Alexander Payne does his thing. I love his movies. Obviously, I'm from Omaha. He's born in Omaha, so he's a hero of mine. And he makes comedy dramas, but not many other people are doing that now. It's a tough genre to try to aim for. But
Right.
this new movie that I made is a romantic comedy. And I found, oh, actually, if you make a romantic comedy, you get to sneak in a lot of character work that you
Yeah.
wouldn't get to do in a lot of other genres. And so it's actually been a fun thing.
G'day, filmmaker Charles Hood. Charles, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Wrapping up a podcast and right back on another podcast. So you wrapped up Light the Fuse. I think the last episode came out earlier, like just a couple days ago.
Yeah, came out on Friday. It was our last episode as the official Mission Impossible podcast. But we started back in 2018 as a very unofficial show, and we did an
Really?
episode every week for 5 years, and then we got Tom Cruise on the show, which was crazy. And then after that, because of that, we became the official Mission Impossible podcast. It was crazy.
That's fantastic. And the way you approached it, if somebody hears that and says, oh, okay, then they're talking about Mission Impossible every time. And you did find ways to bring that in, but you had guests of both above the line, below the line, different directors outside of the franchise. What made you decide to be so versatile with it?
Yeah, my co-host is one of my oldest friends, Drew Taylor. He's a film journalist, and he and I just love movies. We love talking movies. It's all we've ever done, and we were always obsessed with the Mission Impossible movies. And we were, "Oh, how come people don't talk about these movies as much as they should?" And we just wanted to talk to everyone who made the movies. So yeah, we interviewed directors, cinematographers, writers, production designers, costume designers, down to catering. We talked to people, just everybody who worked on these movies. And then when we would talk to those people, we'd talk to them about other parts of their career, other movies that they worked on. We just love film, and we love all kinds of movies, not just Mission Impossible. When we have Robert Elswit, the cinematographer of 2 of the Mission Impossible movies, on the show, then I get to ask him about Punch Drunk
Right?
Love and other Paul Thomas Anderson movies that he's worked on, and other parts of his career too. He shot a James Bond movie, he shot a Bourne movie. He's done so much in his career. He's done a lot of great stuff with Tony Gilroy and just amazing things. So you get to talk to him about all those things, not
Yeah,
just Mission. But the show it's more of a, instead of a show about Mission Impossible, it's more of a show about filmmaking through the lens
exactly.
of the Mission Impossible franchise. And what's great about the Mission Impossible franchise is that they've always empowered the directors to make, you know, more of their vision than you would get from a typical franchise movie. Brad Bird could come in and put his stamp on it and do his own thing. And he talks about that in the interview that we did with him. We did a very extensive interview with Brad Bird, he's a genius, and you get to talk to him about Ghost Protocol, the one he directed. He did Incredibles and Ratatouille, Iron Giant. He's a genius. So to hear him talk about it and why he chose the franchise, he chose it because of that freedom that he could have to put his stamp on it. And then on top of that, they just get the best of the best in terms
Yeah.
of all the crew people. So interviewing all those crew people, they have amazing careers to talk to. The guy who did the masks for Mission Impossible 2, Kevin Yeager, we got to talk to him during the pandemic. We talked to him over Zoom. He was in his studio. He was showing us masks and things. He designed the original Chucky from Child's Play. So
Wow.
to talk to him about that and just everything in his career that he's done, he's a legend in the horror community. And so people like that are, it's an amazing list of people who have worked. And we still, even though we've closed out now after 7 years, there's still a short list of a few people we still haven't gotten. We got all the directors of all the movies except for J.J. Abrams. So I still hope that we can get him, do some kind of addendum to the show
Hell yeah.
and talk to J.J. Abrams. And then also Colleen Atwood, the costume designer of 3, who's a legend, has won a lot of Oscars working on Tim Burton movies. I want to talk to her. I want to talk to Hans Zimmer, who scored the second movie. Anyway, I could talk about
No,
this
I
all day.
I love it, Charles. And one of the things that's curious to me is that it feels like it's a great vehicle, not only for your career, which is great. If you love film, you want to be talking about it. So why do you think more filmmakers, more independent filmmakers don't do this?
I don't know. It is a lot of work. it ends up being a lot of work. And maybe that time on some level could have been better served writing more instead of
Right, yeah.
creating this, but it's hard to get things made. It's really hard to get things made. So for me, I felt it was very fulfilling to be creating something every week. Even if it wasn't a movie, it was talking about movies. I'm very passionate about movies, and to interview all these people and to learn so much from them
Right.
over the years, all these people who are at the top of their game and top of the field. And it's just, yeah, to me, it was very rewarding that way. But they say when you do a podcast, you really got to do it every week. You want to have the cadence, like, consistent. And we did that. We had an episode come out every Friday for 5 or 6 years. It was crazy. And then, so that it's time consuming.
You
That's
got to
maybe
the
the thing.
point.
You want to have a good idea for a show too. You don't want to just go
Right.
and babble. That's something that I was very proud of in our show, is that we were very strict about keeping the running time down and staying on topic. We
Yeah.
didn't really veer off topic very much. There were some kind of topics that we would jokingly go into. We always talked to everybody about Tom Cruise's hairstyle, their favorite haircut from the different movies. And we also would jokingly talk about how we're in a golden age of dog cinema, because there were a lot of dog movies that have come out in the last 10 years. And so we would talk about those every once in a while. But it was really, we stay on topic. We don't bullshit about other things. We talk about movies. We talk about the Mission Impossible movies, and that's it. And we kept our episodes short too, which I think was another way to keep the work down to a certain extent. Our episodes we were trying to always make them between a half hour and 45 minutes.
And yeah, you got on Reddit, I looked and there's at least 20 occasions where somebody was, "Where's the Light the Fuse podcast?" And you're working on something big or something like that. You could
Yeah.
tell people were waiting that for that cadence of missing it when it's gone. And I think that's a good sign that you had a podcast that people love. So how did you get involved in filmmaking? So born in Omaha, I think grew up in Connecticut. What drove your love for filmmaking?
When I was 10 years old, my aunt and my uncle, who both had worked in the movie business, my uncle's a camera operator and my aunt was an art director. The two of them, they had worked on some TV shows in the early 90s, like Northern
Oh, cool.
Exposure.
I love
And
that.
and when I was 10, they made a little pirate movie with me and my cousins in honor of, this is convoluted, but in honor of my grandfather. When he was, I wanna say in the 1930s, my great aunt or great great aunt had an 8 millimeter camera and made a
What?
pirate movie with them. She was very creative, and she directed this pirate movie of my grandfather when he was a kid with him and
In
his
the
cousins.
30s.
In the '30s, yeah, in this lake that my in Wisconsin, that my mom's side of the family would go visit every summer. And so, I think it was some anniversary of that, or anniversary of my grandmother and grandfather's, I think maybe it was my grandmother and grandfather's wedding anniversary. It was 50th or something like that. And so as a gift, my uncle and aunt were, let's make another pirate movie, a sequel to that pirate movie that was made on 8 millimeter, whatever it was, 60 years earlier.
That's crazy.
And so we made that movie. And when that, just my mind just was blown by this, because I had always been a creative kid who was always trying to find weird things to do and fun things to make and things. And when that came on, that I think, and then that summer too, Jurassic Park came out, and that for my generation was just such a mind blowing seminal event for anyone who wants to get into filmmaking. And so those two things combined were just like, oh my god, okay. When I got back from that trip that summer, then I hijacked the family movie camera, video camera, and was just making movies by myself. We had just moved to Connecticut that summer too, so I didn't
Okay.
have any friends. So I was making movies by myself, playing all the parts and making little, like, dummies and mannequin dummies or whatever, however I could make them, with snow pants and jackets, winter jackets and masks and whatever I would make, and I would interact with all of them by myself until I finally got friends. And then when I got friends, I roped them into making movies, and we were all making movies through middle school and high school. And that was just, yeah, a lifelong obsession since I was 10.
And did you go to film school, Charles?
Yeah, went to USC in Los Angeles and have stayed in LA ever since.
So it looks like based on your IMDb, your first, I assume maybe you made student films before that, but you made a feature called Freezer Burn, which I couldn't find. Is it online somewhere? That
No.
okay.
I made it when I was 22. It's a micro budget movie, $40,000 feature. that in hindsight, I'm like, "I cannot believe I did that." But we went out and made this little comedy that was very ambitious for a $40,000 budget,
Yeah.
and, it had half of it's a period piece, and it was a lot. But I'm very proud of I learned a lot, and I'm proud of some jokes in it, some things that we wrote that were really good for it, and my friends and we all made that movie together. And, it had a distribution deal actually with this company that's no longer around called Vanguard Cinema, and they put it
Okay.
out on DVD, and it was actually on
That's so
Netflix. It
cool.
was on Netflix for a while. It was the earliest version of Netflix streaming. It was on that when that was not a big deal, when Netflix
When they
streaming
were
was.
still sending out DVDs.
Yes, and it was standard definition streaming of Netflix. That's when it was on Netflix. And it was on Netflix disc too as well, and then the rights reverted back to me after I can't remember what if it was 7 years or 10 years, something like
Right.
that, and then at that point, I was, "Okay, I don't really know if I want this movie out there," for many reasons, but I'm really proud of it too, though, of what we were able to accomplish on such a tiny budget, and it was really a skeleton crew of just me and just a few friends, and I hooked up with a friend of a friend hooked me up with a cinematographer named Adrian Correa, who is amazing. I've worked with over the years many times, and he's shooting HBO shows and things like that. He's amazing.
Would you recommend that? Because that's the whole thing that there's some directors out there, no matter what, no matter how much you have, make that micro budget feature because then you can sell it. Then you can take it, you're more respected at festivals in a short. If somebody's graduating college, USC this year, and listening to this says, "Oh, yeah, I can make a feature." Would you recommend that route?
I would.
Yeah.
I think it's hard because the only way you can learn to do this is just by doing it
Yeah.
and by failing. So you just have to keep making things. And I was
Mhm.
lucky enough to have nowadays everybody's got a phone. You can make things now easily. And there's apps that you
Right.
can edit in and everything. So there's no excuse, I guess. But when I was growing up, I was just making short films with my friends. And then in high school, I learned to edit VCR to VCR. Actually, my friends and I made a feature in camera edited, actually, where it's just every single take
Really?
cut. It was like an hour and 25-minute comedy
Cool.
about superheroes. When I was a freshman in high school, we did that, and then sophomore year, I made another. It was like a pre film school. Film school. Sophomore year, I made another feature that was edited VCR to VCR. So I learned how to do linear editing.
That's wild.
So you
Oh my
play on
god.
one VCR the raw footage, and then you have to record on the second one. You have to master the remote of record pause, and you pause it and you unpause it, and so that's how you edited linearly. And then I did another feature that way junior year, and then senior year I got a very primitive non-linear editing system called the Casablanca Avio, which I'm sure nobody's heard of, but at the time that was, oh my gosh, this is a amazing thing, and you could do very primitive nonlinear editing with it. So I learned how to edit that, and so yeah, you just have to learn by doing. You just got to make
Right.
it and fail and figure it out. You learn the 180 line by when you watch the movie. You're like, well, why does this not look right? And oh, because I'm not following the 180 rule. And you learn
Yeah,
those things by
exactly.
doing, by making the mistakes. So you have to go and make a bunch of stuff and fail in a way. I feel like you kind of have to do that privately. Is my advice. Go make
Right.
a bunch just make a bunch of little shorts with friends, just little experiments, little one-minute things, whatever, just learn like, "Hey, I wanna learn how to shoot a conversation," so just shoot a short that's a conversation and do those things, and then build up to once you feel like you've learned enough things and you've learned enough about screenwriting too. That was the thing that I feel bad about, with Freezer Burn, the feature that I made right out of college when I was 22. I didn't know anything about screenwriting, and so it wasn't until failing at making that and then studying screenwriting that I learned how to actually write a screenplay the right way, or and there's no right way, but it was just
Right. Exactly.
Freezer Burn would have been better if I had known the things that I learned from failing with Freezer Burn and with studying Michael Arndt, the screenwriter of Little Miss Sunshine and Toy Story 3. He has a website you can look at that has a bunch of tips on how to do beginnings and endings and structure, and he through a friend of the family, I got hooked up with him before he had that website, and he shared with me because he was working at Pixar at the time. He had a lecture at Pixar that he did
Oh,
that was
cool.
all about screenwriting. It's this incredible lecture, and most of it is now online on his website, so you can see it and see it there. But that was an amazing opportunity to talk to him and learn that stuff. So you just gotta just make stuff and just soak it all in. Just listen to your favorite writers on podcasts and read things that they write and read their screenplays. You learn from doing that and then build up to making that feature. But I made even after Freezer Burn, I went back. I hadn't my writing partner. I got a writing partner after I wrote that movie, and we were writing scripts and trying to sell things, and we couldn't sell anything. And so then I haven't directed anything in 5 years. I need to do something.
Right.
So I've directed a couple of shorts just to get back in the groove. And it's tough. It's nice to go to film festivals with shorts, although this is so long ago now, I don't even know what the film festival scene is like. But it was nice to go to film festivals and meet people and show the movie and watch it on a screen with an audience and all that stuff. But I really
Yeah.
think that if you have enough, if you're going to do a big short with a real budget, you might as well try to figure out how to squeeze that budget into a feature and do a feature. Because I just don't know how much mileage you get out of a short.
Yeah.
There are those examples of people who make shorts, like Damien Chazelle made a short of Whiplash, and then he gets to remake it as a feature. There are those stories of things, and that's possible.
But it's almost the exception that proves the rule that it's
Yeah,
not
it's so
happening.
rare that I almost feel like it's better to just try to make a feature, and then you can get distribution and hopefully, obviously that's
Yeah, right.
hard. But these days also you can find ways to self-distribute if you can't get distribution. Yeah.
Do you feel, Charles, that you're, because looking at the shorts that you made and then Freezer Burn and then Night Owls, which I'm excited to talk with you about, do you feel like that genre of sort of the comedy drama relationship, do you feel like that's what you know, so you write about it?
Comedy drama in particular you're talking about?
Yeah, just looking at the shorts, Night Owls, what looks
Yeah.
like your next feature, this sort of comedy relationship, rom-com or rom-com adjacent type film seems like your sweet spot. And I'm wondering why that is. Do you feel that's a market fit?
I love all genres and I'd love to do everything, but for whatever reason, I've gravitated to comedy drama. I think a lot of my favorite movies are in that realm. And so it's, yeah, I don't know. When I was growing up and making movies with my friends, we were making whatever, we were making little action, trying to make action movies and spy shorts and things. And I'm 12 years old and it's ridiculous, obviously. And my older brother said, because he and his brothers would come home and they would, after a night of drinking, and come back and watch our movies and just laugh at them. My brother was like, "Why don't you make comedies instead?" And then I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And so that's when I switched to my focus to. But I've also just always loved comedies. I love their directors who I think are so underrated for comedy directing, like Harold Ramis, Frank Oz, and Blake Edwards, and so yeah, I just think a lot of my favorite movies are there, and it's just always been, I don't know, interesting for me to do character stuff. And yeah, this next movie that I have that'll come out hopefully by the end of the year is a romantic
Okay,
comedy.
awesome.
And I feel like comedy drama right now is comedies and comedy dramas are dead, sadly.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
that genre is just not really, sadly, a marketable thing anymore.
right.
Or at least they don't feel that they can market it and they can't sell it. And it's been sad to see. I feel like there are so few. You see that the Naked Gun movie just had they did a trailer, a special trailer for the new Naked Gun that is a PSA for comedy, trying to encourage people to support comedy and go to the theater to watch it. It's a funny fake PSA that they made about that because there just aren't. They don't put comedies. They don't even build theaters for comedies anymore. Now they have these big cushiony lazy boys that you sit in and you're not even sitting, you're like 6 feet away from the person next to you. So laughter's infectious in a theater. That's how you
Yeah,
should watch a
right.
comedy. So I don't know what's happening. Comedy's kind of not in theaters anymore, and it's a sad thing. And really, they're not even really many streaming comedies made either. I don't know. And yeah, drama comedy too. It's been a hard. Alexander Payne does his thing. I love his movies. Obviously, I'm from Omaha. He's born in Omaha, so he's a hero of mine. And he makes comedy dramas, but not many other people are doing that now. It's a tough genre to try to aim for, but
Right.
this new movie that I made is a romantic comedy, and I found, oh, actually, if you make a romantic comedy, you get to sneak in a lot of character work that you
Yeah,
wouldn't get to do in a lot of other genres, and so it's actually been a fun thing, and also, I'm a fan of romantic comedies. Like I said, I love all genres, but there's so many classic romantic comedies that I love so much, so it's fun to dip into that genre as well. I'd love to do all genres if I can.
yeah. I feel the same, which is why I love Night Owls. 10-year anniversary this year. It premiered at South by, I think, in March 2015. So when you made that film, which would you call that a romantic comedy? I would.
Yeah, I guess I
Or
would
would you
call
call
it
it
a
more?
dark, I guess it's a dark romantic comedy. Yeah. Yeah, I
Well,
would, so there's one of the characters tries to kill themselves in the first 5 minutes of the movie, so that's
and then
heavy
they
for
fall,
a
but
romantic comedy, but I think it's all done, I think it's done we always made sure that we didn't take that lightly. And the movie, I think, but even with that, the movie is funny. We've got
Yeah.
Adam Pally and Rosa Salazar, and they're both so great. And so it's fun to see their chemistry and let them really shine.
And it's fun hearing some of the jokes about, "You paid college football players?" And now that's just
Yeah.
a common thing common thing.
I
They're like
know, yeah, yeah, it's funny how that's so different, yeah. I hope that the movie, yeah, it's an interesting time capsule now for what
right.
who know I don't know what college football's still in flux, I don't know what it's going to become, but, yeah.
When looking back on that 10 years on, what did you bring to making that film that you learned from Freezer Burn? And then looking back on it now, what would you have done differently if there's anything that you can think back on regarding the film?
On Freezer Burn or Night Owls?
On Night Owls. So what did you bring to Night Owls that you learned from Freezer Burn? And then looking
Oh,
back
okay.
on it 10 years on, is there anything that you would change, do differently as you made your 3rd feature now?
Yeah, well, I did a feature also in 2019 for
Okay.
Hulu and Blumhouse
Okay.
called A Nasty Piece of Work.
Okay.
That's on Hulu. I don't even really know how to count the number of features I've done because, like I said, I made a feature in college too with friends. I feel I've just been making movies forever, so it's hard to even count. But I guess if Freezer Burn is the first quote unquote real one,
Right.
but it's such a tiny shoestring budget movie. Is that even real? I don't know. So yeah, it would be Freezer Burn would be one, Night Owls two, Nasty Piece of Work three, and then this new one, There She Goes, is four. So Freezer Burn, I learned a lot from, for sure, just in terms of just staging and how to stage conversations, three-way conversations. I made some mistakes in that movie that I learned from. Definitely screenplay structure. I
Yeah.
learned from a lot of mistakes there, and then I studied a lot of screenplay structure. My writing partner and I, we worked, Seth Goldsmith, he and I worked a lot on, trying to sell studio comedies for a while. And so had to really, in writing those over and over again, it takes about 6 months to write a script, and then probably another 6 months for us, to another 6 months to really refine it. And to make it really good, it really takes more like 2 years. And that's what it was for Night Owls.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and we really, it takes a lot of rewriting. That's what they say. Writing is always, it's a lot of rewriting. And yeah, we learned a lot over those years writing studio comedies and learning structure. And that applied movie that is mainly just two people talking.
Right.
How do you apply a classic screenplay structure to that to keep the momentum going, to give it the audience something to to be intrigued by, some having some mystery in it and stuff like that. So we were very careful about writing that screenplay that way. And then what would I do differently for Night Owls? I've learned so much since. So after Night Owls, that got me a lot of jobs. I was directing a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
awesome.
shows for a defunct app now called Go90. It was
Okay.
Verizon had their
Interesting.
own streaming service where
Oh,
they were
man.
making shows and movies, and they put millions and millions of dollars into all these shows. And I'm convinced it must have been some kind of tax write-off because they didn't advertise it. Nobody knew it. It was free for all Verizon users, and the app worked great, but nobody knew about it. Nobody used it. But I directed the pilot for two different shows and then a bunch of episodes of both of them. And it was this great opportunity. I worked with these really great showrunners on both shows
That's
that
so
were just
cool.
that were encouraging of doing fun things with the camera and trying things. And one of the shows is called Play by Play, which sadly is not really available anywhere now. It was on Roku channel for years after Go90 went under, but now I don't know where it is. And that show is a Wonder Years type show.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
that was great, but it was a lot of fun to do it, and we did it as Wes Anderson style. I didn't wanna go to Wes Anderson because he's so distinct, but the movie it's a comedy show that has a lot of visual flair. We really push it, and the creator, Kevin Jakubowski, was so awesome about wanting to have it be cinematic. He really wanted it to be that, so that was fun. I learned so much directing those shows after Night Owls. So there's that, and then the other show I did was a friend of mine, Ben Epstein, created the show In the Vault, which you can watch on, I think it's streaming on Amazon and Apple. You have to pay,
Okay.
I don't think it's on Prime for free, so you have to pay for it, but it's such a great show, and I wish it would go onto one of the major streaming services. I feel like it would be a very bingeable show for young people. It's like a Gossip Girl murder mystery set in a college dorm. And anyway, that shooting that show, which he wanted the show to be very David Fincher esque. So it was like we got to push style and really do a lot of fun stuff there. So I learned so much directing those. There's some things when I look back on Night Owls now that I wish I had done something a little bit differently. But there's also some things when I
Yeah.
watch Night Out. I watched a few minutes of it sometime a few months ago because it went back on Amazon Prime. It's now on Amazon Prime, which is nice because it bounced around on the different streaming services for years, which was so cool to see for our little movie. It's a $200,000 movie, which I think it looks a lot more expensive than that because we really just everybody worked so hard on the movie, and I think I'm pretty good at making things look more expensive than they are. And anyway, so yeah, when I watch it now, I saw a little bit of it and I was like, man, I wouldn't have done that now. And I actually feel it's awesome that I did that then, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Impressed by the boldness of my younger self that I would do something. "Oh, I didn't cut here. I really held this shot for a really long time. And it felt there's some confidence here that's really interesting that maybe I wouldn't have that confidence now.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
maybe a couple times I know there are a couple of scenes that I didn't see that one. I only watched a little bit of it recently, but there's a couple of scenes I can think of right now off the top of my head where I'm, oh yeah, I wish I had covered something a little bit differently or whatever. But I'm so proud of that movie and everything that we accomplished with it. I think it's really a very personal project for me, and I still have not had anything be as rewarding as that in my
Yeah.
career. So I'm still chasing that feeling again of making Night Owls because it was just such a I don't know, we might have just gotten really lucky with the right crew and the right cast and right timing, and we premiered at South by Southwest, and that was 10 years ago now, and it's crazy to
Right.
think about, but
As you should. It's incredible. It's fun to watch, and it puts a college football with a romantic comedy today, and it gives you a sense of place that I really feel like is missed in a lot of films that don't go well, is that they don't really establish where their setting is, and I feel like in Night Owls, you established the place, the setting, what the characters are going through in a way that I think really stands out, and from hearing you talk about it, comes from the writing, right? It feels like you learn from your first feature that to step up the writing to make the script a lot tighter. Is that something that you've taken with you now for your next feature of really making sure that the screenplay is solid in a way that you wouldn't have done before? That was one of the biggest takeaways that you have from making films over the past decade or so?
yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's funny because I shot Freezer Burn 20 years ago,
That's crazy.
and Night Owls came out 10 years ago, so yeah, it's a crazy journey. I can't believe I've been around this long. But, yeah, I think
Same
the script is so important and getting that structure right. There's no right way to do it. I always say that. You have to know the rules before you
to
can
break
break
them.
them.
Yeah.
And I was breaking them on Freezer Burn without knowing them. I was structuring it in a way where it's like I split the movie in half, and I was like, "It's like a Stanley Kubrick movie, right? That works." And it's like, "Geez, Charles, you are not Stanley Kubrick, and you never will be." It was a good learning experience. You need to know about the inciting incident and the first act break and the midpoint and the second act break. Learning these things, Michael Arndt talks about the second act break reversal, which I think is something that I'm very interested in and I think is very effective structural thing for movies. And yeah, I don't know, I haven't really you're making me think about it now, but I'm just I just am learning. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to learn, still trying to figure out what people want. I've been very lucky
Right.
to in most of the things I've made in my career, I've had a lot of creative freedom and I've gotten good reviews. Critics have liked things that I've made, but I haven't been able to get mainstream audiences to see anything, and so that's trying to get my stuff to get out there more, and so how do you make noise with a movie? I don't know, it's hard. It's hard to rise above all the noise and get people to pay attention and watch your thing, and I think your movie has to be really good and really attention grabbing to do that,
Yeah.
and I haven't been able to do that yet.
Has the podcast given you some help on that? So, this is one of my biggest things, Charles, is trying to understand, right? Because you think about the Oscars, right? I've reached out to people who've won best Oscars for best short, whatever. They're not making another project. They're not getting offers thrown at them. It's not this ticket that's gonna get you your next 5 films made. It's still very hard even with the top honors. So,
Yep.
has the podcast and through this last decade, has it given you some sort of cheat code or some sort of knowledge of going into promotion, going into the distribution of your next film? Do you have an idea of how to better work the system to promote the film? Or is it still, I think I made something great. I'm going to put it out there and hope for the best. Is it still just jumping off that cliff and being hope the parachute, hope the parachute full?
I think no matter what I think anyone who thinks they have it all figured out, they're still jumping off that cliff
Right.
with or without a parachute. You're hoping you have a parachute. I have friends who have they have a movie come out and they have a really good movie come out. They wanna capitalize on it, and so they'll get a publicist to help them get out
Right.
there more, and so that's something that I have not done. We had a publicist for Night Owls who was helping us, and that was good, that was great, but I might do it for myself with this next movie. It's something I've
Yeah.
considered because 'cause I've had some friends do that, and it just helps get out. You get onto different podcasts, you get interviews, you get it's just a good way to try to get the word out, but I have no idea how to make it in this business. I'm still struggling to get my things seen. I think I've, learned some things but I don't have any I have no there's no guide that I can give anybody for how to do it.
And that's incredible, Charles, because you've been talking with the most successful filmmakers in the world for the last 7, 8 years, right? You would
Yes.
think that
I should say
you
I've learned a lot from them, for sure.
yeah,
There's so much I've learned from studying those movies and talking to all the people who made those movies. There's so many things I've learned about filmmaking and about what Tom Cruise is all about is really he's about serving the audience and thinking about how to connect with an audience. And that has definitely come through for me. I think when I was younger, there were times where I just thought of as, oh, when you're a filmmaker, you just make it for yourself and
right.
don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Screw who,
shameless
whatever.
plug.
Yeah. And it's no, I think that there's something special about connecting with an audience. And there are
Right,
projects that I respect that people make movies that are really for themselves and it becomes alienating for some people. And that's legitimate art. That's amazing. But I think that there's really power in the art form of movies and connecting with audiences and having audiences connect with each other, going to a theater and experiencing that. But it's just so hard to get things in theaters now. So I have no Night Owls, I think, played in 10 screens in the for 2 weeks or something. But that was mainly just to get a better you do that to there's a distribution deal where you get premium VOD. You get put it at the
right,
top of the when people go onto their Apple or whatever, it says, "Now in theaters," and it just makes it more
yeah,
highlighted. So it's more for that reason than it is actually to make any money in theaters.
right.
It's so hard to make things that get in theaters that are not with dinosaurs or superheroes
Sure.
nowadays.
And now it's 200, so if 200 people purchase your movie on Apple, say, Apple bumps it up when you pre-order a video on demand streaming on Apple. Just these little weird things that
Oh,
are out
really? I didn't
there
know
that
that.
yeah, I found that out. Somebody was, "I need to have 200." I'm told 200 will get it to the top of the list of the streaming. So as much as you can you talk about the release of your next film?
Yeah, we've locked picture and we're doing all the rest of post now. Our composer's gotten started and we're about to jump into visual effects and
Love it.
sound and color. We're a couple months away from being done and then
Okay.
there's no release date right now. But I will definitely be talking about it on my social media for sure. You can check it out. And it's just it'll be a romantic comedy with Rachel Lee Cook. She did She's All That and Josie and the
Yeah,
Pussycats and she's been around forever. She's so talented and great and funny and her and then Utkarsh Ambudkar, he's one of the stars of Ghosts on CBS.
yeah.
So there are 2 leads, and then Ryan Hansen also. Ryan Hansen from Party Down. He is so great, so funny. Yeah, it'll be out sometime probably by the end of the year. Maybe it'll be next year, depending on where it goes and when they want to release it. But very proud of it, and it's also even though it's a romantic comedy, it's actually very personal to me. I put a lot of myself in this movie, and it's yeah, I'm really proud of it.
That's awesome. Don't you think that you put aside reviews, don't you think that the level of actors that are willing to work with a particular director nowadays, this may not have been true 20 or 30 years ago where directors didn't have a social media profile or any sort of profile at all, but don't you think that's an important vote?
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing to work with so many great actors over the years and so many people. Like even Night Owls, it's actually not just 2 people in the movie, it's mainly 2 people. Like one of my favorite actors, Tony Hale, he played Buster on Arrested Development and he was on Veep. He won a couple of Emmys for Veep. He's a small role in Night Owls and he's so funny and has become a good friend and I'd love to write something more for him. But anyway, yeah, just to have actors sign on to these things is always it's such an amazing I don't know, confidence boost. Be like, okay, they actually
Exactly.
wanna be in this? That's crazy because a lot of the things that I've made have not had a lot of money to make them. So to have an actor wanna sign on to it is, "Oh, wow, this is actually a nice thing to hear that they actually wanna make this because 'cause they're certainly not doing it for the money."
I love that, Charles. So, indie film podcasts love hyping other people's projects. I'm really interested in your thoughts on this. So through your filmmaking, through your podcasting, did you run across a film or filmmaker that you wish more people knew about?
That's a good question. I have a few filmmakers who are in, I guess they're still indie. Josh Greenbaum, I guess he's making studio stuff now, but he made Will and Harper, the Netflix movie, and he made Barb and Star, and he did a documentary about George Lazenby. I think it was Becoming Bond, that is so funny. He did the documentary about the Dana Carvey show called Too Funny to Fail. I love his work. He's just his is so funny and unique. He also actually he did do a studio comedy. He did what was the Will Ferrell and Jamie Foxx dog movie?
Oh, I know what
It
you're
was
talking about.
it's pretty funny movie. Strays. Strays is what it's called. Yeah, yeah. That movie is really a foul-mouthed dog movie. I love dogs. But if anybody who's listened to our podcast ever, Drew, my co-host, and I like the Fuse, we talk about how much we love dogs. So
Dogs, yep.
anyway, love dogs. Okay, sorry. Totally really independent filmmaker that I would say is Rodney Asher. Do you know
Okay,
who that is? He has a new movie coming out called Ghost Boy that is not out yet, but it is amazing. I don't even know if it has distribution yet, but it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I assume it will come out this year. It better. It's incredible. He does documentaries. He did Room 237. Did you ever see that? It's about the people who are it's about people who are obsessed with The Shining, basically. And it's really the movie is just it's footage of the movie The Shining, the Kubrick movie, and it's just people narrating, talking about their theories because there are all these people who have all these theories about what The Shining is really about underneath, and so they're analyzing, maybe you'd say over-analyzing some certain things, and some of these people, oh my god, they sound like they're crazy, and then every once in a while they'll say something like, oh wow, that's actually really interesting. They point out something in the movie, some detail that you would never notice before. That was the movie that I think put him on the map. He did a movie after that called The Nightmare, which is about just interviewing people who have sleep paralysis, who have chronic sleep paralysis. Do you know what sleep paralysis is?
I do, yeah.
It's when you're asleep, you're in a half asleep state and you're frozen and you're stuck. And these people will describe their experiences because they have it on a weekly basis. I've had it once in my life and it was so terrifying. It's like you're paralyzed, you can't move and you're awake. And I saw this black figure in the room and it's like probably just some form of nightmare, but it
Right.
was just
I
so
hope, yeah.
horrifying. And so these people, you hear these people talk about, it's so sad, their lives that they live, that they have sleep paralysis on a regular basis. And you hear them talk about it, and he films reenactments of what they experience. And again, he makes these documentaries where it's people who are borderline, maybe they're a little crazy, and then every once in a while you're, oh wait, no, they're not crazy. That's I've experienced that. It's things like that. He has another movie he did a couple of years ago called A Glitch in the Matrix, which is all about people who are convinced that we're living in a simulation. And so again, it's interviews with all these people just talking about how they feel like their experiences of the world that make them convinced that we live in a simulation. The movie The Matrix, when they say there's a glitch in the Matrix, you see a little like deja vu or whatever, like little
Thing,
glitches.
yeah.
So it's people just describing what they feel, and then it uses all these different. And you don't actually these people in this documentary, you never see them. He makes avatars, like sort of almost video game avatars for them while they're interviewed, talking heads, but they're like video game avatars instead of themselves. And then he again films different kind of reenactments and stuff. I just think Rodney Asher is brilliant and singular, and he makes just one of a kind movies, and they're so interesting.
Love that. Filmmaker Charles Hood, the new film, There She Goes, coming out later this year, maybe next year. Check your socials for that. I'll link there. And maybe when J.J. Abrams calls you, we will get the addendum episode of The Fuse, which I would really appreciate. But thanks for
I think we'll be back one way or another, like the Fuse.
okay.
I think so. And also, yeah, so check out Night Owls. It's on Amazon Prime, and Nasty Piece of Work, which we didn't really talk much about, is on Hulu. That's a very
Okay.
dark comedy. It's a Blumhouse movie, part of the Into the Dark anthology series. They were making holiday horror movies for every month of the year, and
Oh, that's cool.
I got to do the Christmas movie that year. And so they were just doing a feature length movie every month was coming out and related to the holiday of that month. And so yeah,
I
Nasty
love
Piece
that.
of Work is a very dark, it's like an even darker Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf set at
Ooh,
Christmas. And so it's a wild ride. And with the late great Julian Sands, who sadly passed away afterwards, but he's amazing in it.
ooh. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.